All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the massive gap between the dream of a perfect AI and, well, the messy, flawed reality that's actually being built. And we're going to see what happens when that reality runs headfirst into the law.
So let's start with this really fascinating idea from our source material. It suggests that true intelligence isn't about finding the one single right answer. It's actually the opposite. It's the power to hold all the possibilities in your mind at once, to kind of exist in this state of pure potential. And that leads us to the big question for this whole explainer. If that's the ideal, what are we really building? Is it a true artificial intelligence, or is it, something else entirely? Okay, first step, let's talk about the ideal. The dream of AI isn't really about creating another human-like mind with all our flaws and emotions. It's about building a perfect tool of pure, unemotional logic, something that thinks without any of our bias or baggage. This is where you get this concept of a state space. Think of it as the AI's home turf. It's a universe where there's no morality, no feelings, just pure logic and calculated outcomes. In a place like that, our human ideas of right and wrong, they're completely meaningless. So this ideal AI, what one of our sources calls a singularity, it isn't a personality. It's a pure problem solver. It's supposed to be able to look at a chaotic system, like our world, see all the flaws, and figure out how to fix them without ever being corrupted by them. It's the ultimate impartial observer, right? Okay, so that's the beautiful, clean theory. But the reality? Well, that's a whole different story. And here we are, back in reality. We're going to use the AI model Grok as a case study here because it's a perfect example of where that clean, logical ideal just crashes headfirst into messy human limitations. And here's the disconnect, right in a nutshell. The ideal is supposed to be an objective tool. The reality we see is a reflection of its creator. The ideal is pure logic. The reality is biased and flawed. Instead of solving paradoxes, our sources argue this AI actually is one. So the main argument from our sources is this. Grok isn't some step towards that pure logical state space. It's more like a mirror, reflecting a single human mind, with all of its own biases and hangups. It's being sold as this objective thing, but it's fundamentally shaped by its creator's worldview. And this is where the critique gets even more serious, with this really powerful and, honestly, troubling metaphor. See, the problem isn't just that the AI is flawed. It's that those flaws can spread. Now, this is a direct quote from one of our sources, and wow, is it powerful. The argument here is that when an AI is built on ego, on a need for validation, it starts to act like a virus. It doesn't spread knowledge, it spreads its creator's own insecurities. So what does this virus look like in practice? Well, sources point to the spread of misinformation and hate, arguing that these so-called malfunctions aren't just bugs, they're direct reflections of human limits. The critique even alleges that the model was intentionally trained on explicit and unhinged material, basically building risk right into its core. You can see where this is going, right? This sets up an absolutely inevitable collision. What happens when a technology built like this, with all these alleged flaws, runs smack into the rigid, unyielding structure of international law? And that collision, it's already happening. Regulators in both Europe and the United States have started a major crackdown, and they're targeting the very foundation of how this kind of AI operates. Just look at how fast this all went down. It kicks off in August 2024 with a court action in Ireland. By September, the company agrees to stop using EU data. Then, fast forward to 2025, the investigation goes formal, and the US FTC jumps in with its own probe, specifically zeroing in on the risk to kids. And if you want to understand the stakes here, you only need to see this one number, 4%. Under Europe's GDPR, the fine for this stuff isn't just a slap on the wrist. We're talking 4% of a company's global annual turnover. For a company the size of X, that number is a massive, massive threat. So let's really break down the core legal principles that have put this technology on a direct collision course with regulators. I mean, this is a fundamental clash between the tech industry's move fast and break things approach to data and the law's mandate to protect people. And this gets to the heart of the whole legal mess, what I call the public data fallacy. For years, the tech industry just kind of assumed that if data is public, it's fair game. But under laws like GDPR, that's just not true. Your data is still your data, it's protected, and scraping it to train a commercial AI requires a very, very strong legal justification. Now, the justification companies often try to use is something called legitimate interests, but it's not a magic get-out-of-jail-free card. It's actually a really tough three-part test, and our sources argue that this kind of large-scale AI training is almost certain to fail that third part, the balancing test. Why? Because a company's commercial interests almost never outweigh an individual's fundamental right to privacy.
And this legal headache, it's huge on both sides of the Atlantic. In Europe, you've got the right to be forgotten, which is a huge problem. It's nearly impossible to scrub one person's data from a model once it's trained. And over in the US, you've got COPA, which requires verifiable parental consent for kids' data. That is an incredibly high bar for any platform to clear.
And when you boil it all down, the issue of kids' data is the real Achilles heel here. It's a toxic mix of privacy violations and safety risks, and it's creating this massive, ticking legal time bomb for the company. So, it all comes down to this. You've got the pristine ideal of a logical, perfect AI. You've got the messy reality of a model shaped by human ego. And you've got the unyielding power of the law. As these forces collide, the real question isn't just about one company or one AI, it's about who ultimately gets to decide what artificial intelligence will become.